Okay, I will make it full screen so we can also begin. Good evening, everybody. According to my Egyptian time zone, my presentation is non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, nitazoxanide, azithromycin immunomodulatory protocol used in adult, geriatric, pediatric, pregnant, and immunocompromised COVID-19 patients, a real-world experience. Well, actually, for more than a year, I claim that we have a potential COVID-19 safe, economic, and highly effective curative protocol. For more than a year, I cry, wishing that randomized clinical trials might be performed for the best interest of patients. And unfortunately, I claim millions of lives could have been saved if we have found one honest and brave editor-in-chief or even head of a famous preprint server like Medrexev or Preprints that could have published this protocol and made it available for a lot of researchers. Let's begin. On January 2020, we awaked on an epidemic that soon transformed into a pandemic currently known as COVID-19. At this time, I was alone working in KSA away from my family, including my daughter, which is here also, who traveled back to Egypt for a short Christmas vacation, yet it turned into a compulsory long one because of the international air travel lockdown. Moreover, my lectures in KSA have soon transformed into online presentation, and thus I became like imprisoned, having nothing but an anxiety, fear, and also research. Wishing to help my isolated family back in Egypt, including my elder parents and two young daughters, my COVID-19 research evolved fast as I have never been able to, and fruited a first of its kind, as stated, call to repurpose two inexpensive FDA-approved drugs claiming a survival benefit at that time, April 2020, if taken early during COVID-19. And here it is published at Pharmacological Research, nitazoxanide, azithromycin combination, a suggested new protocol for early management of COVID-19. And if you read this, this paper, you will find that I claim that these drugs will work because of restoration of the interferon homeostasis. That's why I changed my studies from pharmacology into immunology, from drugs into what about this interferon, what about interleukin 6, interleukin 6 amplifier, and so many mediators that have evolved later. However, meanwhile, this paper I was very fortunate. I have it published quick enough, and it was also published by a famous preprint server, which is Preprints. And to be noted that Preprints and Medrexev have refused to publish any other paper from that time. I don't know why. This research published at a Q1 journal, Pharmacological Research, have cited by plenty of authors currently, and it has been a basis for so many articles. However, I was also very anxious about the claims that non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs might be hazardous for COVID-19. If you remember, it was a correspondence published at the Lancet Respiratory Medicine, unfortunately by famous Swiss doctors and one from Greece, and it had gone viral in the medical and political community. We had the Minister of Health in France warning against non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. We have a lot of posts on Facebook, on Twitter, on everywhere, that non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs are harmful if taken for COVID-19. I have examined this correspondence at that time and found so many fallacies. And I've soon made a reply, scientific reply, but it was aggressive one. I called it a scam. I sent it to New England Journal of Medicine, of course rejected, as well as many other journals, until in this preprint, I counted about a dozen journals who have refused to peer review it without any explanation. But fortunately, I had been fortunate to have an honorable editor-in-chief in a well-reputed journal in Pharmacology, who advised me to lower my tone of criticism to those highly esteemed researchers and to focus on the scientific basis, and I published it. ACE inhibitor, ARBs, and ibuprofen as an example of non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug linked to COVID-19, the other side of the mirror. And if you examine also this article that has not been replied to by the criticized authors, by the editors, or by anybody, like others also, you will find that it was claimless. This correspondence that led the world to avoid non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. And since then, also I've claimed, I posted this achievement, Egyptian achievement, of my Facebook page, and I've received compassionate requests to help. You said nitazoxanide, azithromycin might help. You said non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug not harmful. And at this time, Egypt was using hydroxychloroquine and oseltamivir, and I was heavily criticizing these drugs long before it has been revealed to be hazardous or not useful, or at least as it was originally so. And as my clinical practice, I responded positively to these requests. And when my clinical practice evolved and proved that these drugs are safe, highly effective, and economic, I also managed to publish another article at a Q1 journal, Biomedicine and Pharmacotherapy, highly repeated one, saying that early use of non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs might manage to save lives. This is opposite what has been claimed by many authors. Later, other manuscripts have explored. I've tried to dig deeper and found so many beneficial uses, immunomodulatory uses for non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. And recently, this paper was published at another highly reputable journal, Expert Review of Anti-Infective Therapy, showing the potential immunomodulatory effects, how non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug, nitazoxanide and azithromycin, can save lives, can it change the game for COVID-19. But as you can see, very few views and almost no mention in Twitter except by myself. And this is what is happening. I don't know why. Is it for Mina? Is it for Egypt? I don't know. But you can see that I'm not alone. Other preprints are also being dealt likewise by so many editors in chiefs, sometimes reviewed, okay, and I see the reviewer comments and they say minor revision, but the editors say no, it is highly speculative, we cannot publish it, so rejection. Like this one, potential COVID-19 immunomodulation, it talks about benefit for non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs as regard to ORF proteins, caspases, necroptosis, endoplasmic reticulum stress. This is added to what I've said about immune dysrhythmia, about interleukin 6 amplifier, about my hypothesis, lymphocyte distraction hypothesis. I can say whatever. No media, no help from my fellow colleagues in Egypt or anywhere. So no change on the ground. And that's why I think I'm fortunate today that I have very notable colleagues presenting from all over the world, especially in Israel, which we are neighboring and performing similar work. My anger and passion was reflected, as I've said, through social media accounts since April 2020. And there is one YouTube posted early in May 2020. I heavily criticizing President Donald Trump at the time and Dr. Anthony Fauci for his remdesivir and oseltamivir and hydroxychloroquine. And I'm saying that we have a potential curative protocol that is being ignored for the sake of the highly expensive drugs and perhaps also the highly profitable vaccines after that. Well, I have used non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug, nitazoxanide and azithromycin, and evolved this immunomodulatory protocol to safely manage dozens of COVID-19 consented patients and legal guardians, and presented 38 detailed case by case. I've managed more than 45 and 50 patients by telemedicine, but I've represented a 38 case by case. Okay, the first The first preprint was on June 2020. I called it a breakthrough. And I called it also, it might be the magic bullet. And for this title, the magic bullet, it was, this manuscript was once honestly peer reviewed and accepted by the same honorable editor-in-chief who has previously helped me to publish the criticism to the correspondence, and he's one of a kind as regard to non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs experience, but unfortunately it was withdrawn from publication. Why? He said because the quality of the photos, I chose to print it in black. I had no fund, no support from any Egyptian institution or elsewhere. So I opted to print the photos in black because, you know, I could not and I cannot afford 3,000, not 300, I'm sorry, US dollar. It was about $300 for the photo. And the other reasons that, and I admit I am guilty at the time, that I in this, you know, gallery proof set, stage, I try to modify many sentences. At the time, I had so many extra ideas, and I was amazed. Let me say it frankly, it was accepted that I can say easily. I tried to make some modification. This editor-in-chief has told me that some have said now after my changes, now after that I opted to print it in black, they will withdraw it from publication. I said, it's your decision, it's your journal, and I can argue. Again, the presented in this updated preprint, 38 case series included 4 children, adult, geriatrics, 3 pregnant patients, lactating, immunocompromised patient, and I used a personalized telemedicine approach as described in this preprint. Some patients were categorized as moderate to severe also, and 12 of those patients were confirmed by PCR, including 1 pregnant patient. The other were diagnosed by the lab, by clinical picture, by radiological investigation like CT, and the success rate was 100%, and no serious adverse effect were reported. And in the acknowledgement, in the updated acknowledgement, I'm saying that those patients are available. The author is also available. That's myself. And for more than a year, I'm saying we ignore a potential cure. Here is simply this protocol. If we have SARS-CoV-2 infection, it might be either a carrier or symptomatic patient. If a carrier, just I recommend self-isolation plus minus zinc and vitamins. If symptomatic, after checking the body temperature, if below 38 degrees centigrade, I will check if there is no diarrhea, then I will choose either non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug or nitazoxanide. If there is diarrhea, of course, nitazoxanide will be added because it was originally, I repurposed it because of this interferon potential for management of COVID-19, because of this, its immunomodulatory effect for COVID-19. So I used non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug plus nitazoxanide, or sometimes nitazoxanide alone. If above 38 degrees centigrade, I use the full protocol non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug nitazoxanide, azithromycin, and sometimes I've added parenteral third generation cephalosporin, cefoperazone in some cases as described in this preprint, which is updated. As regard, I chose, by the way, I returned to Egypt at the time I received this telemedicine request. Most of them I was in KSA, in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, working there at the university with no hospital, okay? So my work was purely academic. My patient, because I was also a physician before I go to KSA, so my patients, some who have noticed my video on YouTube or something, I received their request and I manage them. Telemedicine was new for me. I have not used it before. But I am saying COVID-19 not only changed our world, but also changed our mentality as well. Telemedicine may be very valuable tool in management of this pandemic, and again, especially for management of infectious diseases. Currently, I'm back to my clinic. I've resumed the classic face-to-face and currently mask-to-mask medical examination. I use the same protocol with the same results, with the same effect, but no witness from the world. Sadly, I wish the editors of the Lancet Respiratory Medicine who have authorized the release of this catastrophic correspondence should be penalized for this crime. Again, I think they have made a crime. Promoting a claimless scam that prohibited for long non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug to manage the hyper-inflammatory COVID-19 and globally leading to waste of millions of precious lives. One day, we might also witness other editors who have kept to ignore all my papers. Fortunately, I have more than 7 papers published in PubMed Index journal. I have 3 papers published in non-PubMed Index journals. And I have almost other 10 preprints, which are followed by plenty of journals. But I wish to give shameful credit to the editor of New England Journal of Medicine, Nature Medicine, Science Advances, The Lancet, Pharmacogenetics, and most recently, on Chief of Medical Research. This Chief of Medical Research has kept a preprint for repurposing amantadine and Mina T for severe COVID-19 for 2 months. They gave me the reviewer asked for changes. I gave them my response and update in 2 days. Then, and they kept the reviewer comments for 2 months. Just a few days ago, saying the reviewer have asked for another revision, but the editor, no, sorry. I told her, this editor-in-chief of our Chief of Medical Research, why haven't you rejected it 2 months earlier? I don't care if you will publish it or not. No matter, you have declined to see that the reviewers are asking for a revision, but at least you should have some decency or honesty to send it 2 months ago. I think also fully funded and biased authors should be penalized, especially those who are promoting for remdesivir and favipiravir. And in another heavily fought preprint, I think the mass vaccination. I reject the mass vaccination of SARS-CoV-2 vaccines. Remdesivir, favipiravir, and dexamethasone have led to those variants and other variants. So if our colleagues are asking what about the future, I think the future is not good. We are walking on the wrong direction, while we should focus on how to best manage this pandemic, how to save lives. I think we are just focusing on vaccine, and we have our honorable editor from Israel saying what we already know, that now this is in Israel like elsewhere. And sometimes it might be even worse, as I claim in this preprint also. Heavily fought from August 2020, autoimmunity and antibody-dependent COVID-19 enhancement of SARS-CoV-2 vaccination. Hopefully, I'm praying, moving from Nobel Prize to prison sentence for those authors. Fortunately, my preprint, which is currently available in 2 different preprint servers, after one has temporarily suspended my account, but currently it is not also working, accepted by a new novel journal. I think it would be a very honorable one soon, after being properly peer reviewed, and hopefully it will not be withdrawn again from publication. And thank you very much. You're also most welcome to visit Egypt at any time. Thank you.
Thank you for your talk. Any questions can be asked by unmuting your microphones.
Can I have a question?
Of course.
Yeah, so I will talk soon about saline. Now, the fact that you say that the NSAIDs work do not surprise me, because, as I will show later, is that salt is disturbed and saline has some action. And non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, in fact, what they do, they promote sodium reabsorption and also chloride reabsorption and retain water. And what I will show in my presentation is what happens to the epithelium and the mucosa being dehydrated and so on. So what you present here does not surprise me, and may indeed possibly be a good approach. The problem is, as for me, if there is no ticket of money, I was 40 years in the industry and always had doctors of everywhere in the world working with me, because I always had from the industry a wallet with me. And I agree with you, when there is no wallet, it's very hard to publish. It's very hard to get appreciated. It's being said as being speculation. And I must say that academicians that in Belgium I worked with before, I contacted to do trials with saline because of the results I'll show. They were unanswered. I even prayed geriatricians to do just an observational trial in homes of elderly people, because saline doesn't cost anything and it's so simple. But they answered me, no time. So I agree with you, and I understand your frustration, as it is mine as well.
Well, my beloved one are being saved here in Egypt. What I'm pity for, that those in many countries that are so afraid of non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, just second choice after paracetamol. And what I'm also frustrated is that we have a paper in expert review of anti-infective therapy saying why these drugs can cure, as stated, COVID-19, and nobody get noticed. This is what I'm really frustrated for.
But that doesn't matter. They're not interested in it. Even
yes, indeed.
You're right, but the authorities do not support. And the authorities, they said, oh, we know saline, nasal hygiene, we know it for respiratory viruses, so doctors can apply it as they want. But they refuse to provide a little bit fund of money to investigate into a more randomized, well-controlled trial. So I understand. Sorry.
Oh, my daughter just saying hello, so I don't want. Thank you very much.